Rasslin Rage. Cody Fleming is the man who leads the brigade.
Hey everybody, it's Cody, Danny, and Josh here with Michigan Independent Weekly, and we're joined by Rough House Rob. Listen guys, before we get into it, make sure you smash the thumbs up and do all that good stuff. Let's talk. There's a big elephant in the room. There's a huge elephant in the room, but we'll wait for that for a second, just for a second. Rob, we want to ask you first before we get right into that. How did you get involved in promoting? Specifically, how did you get involved in DSW?
Well, Johnny Bad Wheels, he's been one of my best friends for the last, 12, 13 years or more. I wrestled with him I worked for him at M.i.w before it was DSW.
Okay.
And, he kind of he kind of had a lot to do with creating the Brew Crew.
Yeah.
And
that's a big faction.
Yeah, that was fun.
Right. So,
But yeah, go ahead.
You get involved with DSW, your buddies here, and at some point, you're actually get involved in the promoting side of things. Can you tell us kind of how you got involved with that?
Yeah, about a year ago, Johnny got sick. He had that thing going on with his heart and his head, and he fell really ill, and he was ready to shut the company down until he got better. And I'm like, well, why do that? I'll run it for you. And he was all in,
Right.
So I kind of took it over and started running the shows for him, and really good time doing that too.
Right. So, there's, let's be honest, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's the video, what happened at DSW this past weekend. There's the legit what happened. There was, post all over Facebook. Everybody's been waiting for Rob to talk about what happened. So without further ado, can you elaborate a little bit about what happened? What led to, first of all, what led to what last night? Or not last night, but Saturday.
Saturday night. Well, What led to it was about a year ago, when Johnny was sick, right after he was coming back, the two brothers, I'm not even going to say their names, dude.
That's fine.
I'm not. I've been calling them Tweedledee and Tweedledumbass. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They don't deserve to have their names on there. They approached me on the sidewalk outside DSW, and I believe it's the older brother, Tweedledee. He wanted to be part of it. He said he wanted to come in and help DSW, and be in charge of security and set up and tear down and set up the locker room. And then he said he wanted to help out with sound and stuff. And it's like, well, I don't know, because it's kind of like a fan, but it was a fan I've never met. Right. So it was a little bit different. It wasn't a fan that I see at the show every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was super, super sweet guy, man. And I had to do a lot of legwork to get the guys to accept him. I had to do a lot of legwork to expect for the other promoters to even accept him.
Right.
And eventually they did. And we told him, we says, we're not going to bring you in so that you can learn the business and start running shows again, since that's the last thing we want. I said, oh, no, I don't want to run shows. I'm like, okay, cool. And let's do this. And we also told him, when it comes to independent pro wrestling, you got to have a love for the business. There's not a bunch of money to be made. You ain't going to be making hand over fist dollars. Nowhere near it.
Right.
A lot of these shows on the independent circuit, you're lucky to break even.
Yeah.
You got your XI, of course, they're doing a lot better than breaking even.
Right. They've been doing it for a while.
Yes. And we just told them, most of the time you put in and you don't get back.
Yeah.
And that's what we told him, and he was agreeing to it, and so we brought him in, and I had to do, I'm not kidding, a lot of legwork to get him accepted.
Right.
And it wasn't real hard because if he's a very likable guy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would agree with that. For sure. Now, so that leads into all that, but so what was happening? There was things going on where supposedly you got fired.
I did.
How
I got fired by the merch guy.
How does one get fired by the merch guy?
Well, I can't. It's so hard to sit here and dog out Johnny because he is one of my very best friends. But he's yes man.
Right.
He doesn't say no. You know what I mean?
And it's probably 'cause he's such a nice guy.
He is. He's an incredibly nice guy.
Right.
But there's another name they use for it too.
Right.
You know, and I mean, I don't know if I can swear on here or not, or is it clean?
Whatever.
He's a really pussy guy. You know, I mean, right. He doesn't like confrontation, which is fine. You know,
right.
People are going to say what they want about him. He don't like confrontation. He don't like arguing. He'd rather just let you get your way.
Right.
And that's what happened here. Right. You know, they, God, I'm ready to roll with this. But if you go ahead and give me any more questions if you got it, because I'm going to roll.
Well, so, you know, that all happens, and then we get into, you know, I think really it's at this point, it's just go, bro, because I don't even know what else to ask you at this point. I mean, is there anything you guys want to ask him?
No, you know, I mean, from the video,
I'm wearing black panties.
Well, you know, we from what we got to see was probably, you know, like maybe, I mean, really the tail end of it. So,
right.
You roll and catch us up to what we saw on the video, man.
Okay. All right. Then we'll go on with what we talked about beforehand.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the anniversary show in April. Okay. We're trying to keep the card down money-wise. And people started getting added. And some guys didn't get paid. And the same thing happened in June. And that's bullshit. I'm sorry. They have accused me of stealing money off the door. And you can ask anybody. Anytime I would do the door, I make sure somebody's sitting there with me. Whether it be Johnny, whether it be DBA, whether it be Joseph Harvey or Jason Shane, somebody's going to be sitting there with me when I do the envelopes.
Right. Gotcha.
Because I'm going to make sure. Plus, me being a new promoter, I'm not sure who gets paid what sometimes when there's guys on the show that's never wrestled for us.
Right.
So I definitely need the likes of DBA or Johnny Delicious or somebody there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And for them to accuse me of stealing money is horseshit. I go into my pocket if I have to. I haven't had too many times, and it's just a few bucks. It's nothing big, you know? But for them to accuse me of stealing money, that's just a serious insult, and I take it personal. But I'm just going to let that part go for now. And after the June show, whatever happened. Nothing really big happened on the show. Just some guys didn't get paid, which was I had no idea about because they were actually handling the envelopes. They were wanting to take more control at that point. They were wanting to have a say in the storylines. They were wanting to have a say on who was booked. Hell, Glenn brought in Pitbull #3 for the anniversary show. You know, he's like, "Oh, I got this. I'm like, "Okay, you got this. That's on you." You know.
Right.
And then they were wanting DBA to drop the TV title to them. DBA's held that title for he knows exactly how many years and how many days. I don't.
Right.
But a long freaking time.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll be damned. I'll be damned if he was going to drop that belt with no meaning behind it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there had to be something. And I hate exposing the business like this, but right now it kind of needs to be.
Right.
Because it was shady. I mean, this guy bought me and my wife a hot tub for Christmas.
Wow.
A hot tub.
Yeah,
You know, super cool dude. After the June show, we went on vacation to Ohio, to Kalahari, and we got jointed rooms, our families, you know, and we had like 5 days, 4 or 5 days. We were at Kalahari with our families together.
Wow, man.
Then we come back to great time. And then we come back to my block party at the middle of July.
Right.
Great time. At that point, they already knew they were going to let me go. And they had Johnny convinced. They were telling Johnny, all the boys are coming up to us and saying that they're tired of the way Rob's running the show and they don't want to work for DSW anymore. And I called the boys and I said, look, man, did I do something to piss you guys off? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Not one person said that they didn't like the way things were going. And I get it, because from the time I started promoting, it was the Rough House Rob show. It was the Brew Crew show. It
Right.
was, but I was putting asses in the seats. I was selling tickets.
Right.
I was selling 40 plus tickets a show. So it is what it is. But I should have pumped my brakes and thought about everybody else, and I didn't. And I'm sure it rubbed a couple people the wrong way, but not to the point where they would say they don't want to wrestle for DSW anymore. You know,
Right.
nothing that bad. I mean, I'm owning up to it. So after the block party, 3 days after, it was on a Tuesday, I get a call, and it's a three-way with Glenn, Aaron, and Johnny. And Aaron says, your services are no longer needed at DSW. I'm like, what? So basically, I have a stroke behind my eye a month earlier, and then I lost my job, and then they dropped this bombshell on me.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, fuck.
Right.
And I just kind of hung up on him and said, whatever. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And I called Johnny, and I'm like, dude, do you agree with this? He's like, no, I don't agree with this. And then 5 minutes later, well, I texted them and I says, Johnny said, I'm not gone. He's the owner. I'm not gone. And 5 minutes later, they called me, and Johnny was there. He says, Rob, you need to step down. They were strong-arming him, threatening to make his ring disappear. I don't know what they were threatening to do, but I know it had everything to do with his ring.
Wow.
So he had to tell me to step down because he was in fear of his ring going away.
That's horrible,
And then
man.
2 days later was my birthday, and he called me on my birthday, and he says I wasn't going to go the whole day without wishing my best friend happy birthday. And I'm like, you don't act like my best friend, and unless you can tell me they're holding something over your head, then I'm hanging up. He says, fuck yeah, they're holding something over my head, my ring. You know, and I'm like, all right. He says, look, I'll give him my ring. I'll give him DSW. They can just take it off. I just don't want to lose our friendship. You're my best friend, and I don't want to lose that. That right there told me he wasn't lying.
Wow.
Right.
That's all it took I've known him long enough to know him. Yeah, he can be a pushover and everything, but when he said that, I totally believed him, and that's when we started planning. I'm not lying. There's no lie. This has been in plan since almost day one. 3 days after it started planning. And that was because if they would have just done like they said they were going to do and be the nice guys that we thought they were, we'd still be doing this.
Right.
But they, you know, when we told Glenn, you know, we don't want you running shows or anything like that. We want you to stay with us. And he went out and bought a ring. And I said, what'd you buy a ring for? He goes, oh, ring rental. I can make some extra money. I'm like, oh, okay. Now he had that show planned up in Sterling Heights.
Right.
That outstanding pro wrestling.
Right.
Which I did
But,
see has been canceled now.
It has been canceled.
That is.
It was used to get his foot in the door. I was used to get everybody to join and like him. I mean,
Right.
hell, I got to deal with the rest of my life saying Steve Rivera saying, "I told you so." I freaking told you so, because he was the hardest. He didn't want to give in,
Right.
but he eventually did, and he gave Glenn a shot. But then, when all said and done, Steve was the one. I told you so. I told you so. And so him just renting the ring out was bullshit, because, as you can see, he planned on running shows.
Right.
And he tried to buy the company from Johnny. I don't know how many times I kept telling him, "Don't you dare sell it to them. What are you talking about?"
Right.
You know, and they wanted to have, at one point in the June show, usually it's me, Johnny, and Johnny Delicious, you know, and we're going over the card and everything we need to do. We had like 7 people standing around the table wanting to put their input in. That's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just insane. So they got rid of the bad guy, which was me, so that way they could control everything Johnny did. Johnny hasn't controlled anything since July.
Wow.
You know, when it comes, and they had no idea that on that show Saturday, I was running the locker room since July.
No kidding.
They thought they were running it. They thought they were running it, you know.
Right.
But and what do you want to know about Saturday? That happened Saturday, because that's just about it that led up to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we've talked about, you know, like, so all of a sudden, like, DBA said something about how, you know, he got pulled into some crap or whatever, and, you know, whatever. But, you know, they got in the ring, and Glenn kind of, you know, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, whatever, is kind of talking about. He's saying that he felt threatened, and there's comments about how somebody was hurt during this, and it was one of his family members or something like that, you know, and they felt threatened, and that basically you guys are keyboard warriors, and that if you have
keyboard warriors, look at his posts today.
I know, but that's what's being said, and I'm just wondering, you know, what is anything the man says true?
I feel like if his lips are moving, he's trying to con you.
There you go.
I mean, I don't think I've ever heard him admit that he was wrong. I don't think he's ever agreed to step back and let somebody else take over in a certain area. He has to be in control.
Gotcha.
And I get it. That's the way some people are.
Right.
But you can't be like that in a wrestling business. You know, I had Chris Carter and Chuck Wagon on the anniversary show. And he looked at me, he says, "Oh, we're never doing that again." I'm like, "What do you mean? Those 2 old guys?" And I'm like, "Well, for one, Chuck Wagon's about my age. And Chris Carter, I used to go watch him wrestle when I was like 15, 16 years old. You know what a blessing it is for me to be able to book somebody I loved watching back in the day,
Right.
and to have him wrestle on my show. That was the coolest thing ever."
Well,
You know?
to
And-
be so arrogant is to say that, you know, the people who paved the way, who does this guy think he is? NWO?
Right.
You took the words out of my mouth. The guys who paved our way, you know,
Right.
the vets.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was even talk, you know, why does DBA have that belt for so long? That's bullshit. He's getting too old too. We don't need the likes of DBA or Jamie Cox and Rob. You should step down and just be a manager or something, or work. Who knows? They probably want me to take tickets or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and that was something that we didn't really talk about. Like, they said something about, like, because you were talking about you were fired, but they said something about they tried to fire Jamie Cox and DBA too.
That was in the process. They were in the process of pushing them out the door after me,
Really?
because
Wow.
all they wanted was the young talent. That was it. And hey, the young talent, that's our future, man. I'm all about it. But you got to throw some of the vets in there, man.
Right. I got you.
Because, for one, we help pave the way, just like your Chris Carters and your Chuck Wagons and stuff,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But on a second hand, we like to get in there and have fun still.
Right.
I'm 53 years old, man, and I still like to get in there.
Right.
I can't work like I used to, but I
Right.
can go in there and beat somebody up. One thing that I had said to him, you know, when he mentioned not using Carter or Chuckwagon again. I'm like, you got to understand something, because they wanted to learn. So I was trying to teach them. There is a loyalty and respect in this business between the boys.
Right.
And it's not rocket science. The guys that gave you a break, you don't shut the door on them ever. Chris Carter, I was a kid, and he's like, come on, kid, I didn't have a lot of money as a kid. I was raised by my grandparents. I didn't even have money to get into a show. If I was able to go to an independent show, I was lucky.
Right.
And Chris Carter knew that, and he's like, come on, kid, come on, help set up the chairs, help carry some lumber to the ring, help set up. And he would let me sit in there and watch the show. And then later on, I had met Sweet Daddy down at the Jubilee Festival, and they needed a referee. And my buddy's like, he introduced me to Sweet Daddy, and Sweet Daddy looks at me and says, can you referee? I'm like, yes. He says, you know the business? I said, I watch it on TV all the time. He says, so I said, yeah, I know it's fake. Don't you go in that bus and use that F word now. Those guys will kick your ass. So I'm thinking, it's an outside show in Detroit, probably 40, 50 people around the ring. And he says, you go in the bus and you tell them you're refereeing all the matches tonight. And I go on this bus, and I walk in there, and there's Cowboy Bob Orton.
Oh, wow.
And then behind him was Nails. And then there was Lord Littlebrook and the Karate Kid. I'm like, holy shit.
Right.
What a way to break into business,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good story.
And, but I was trying to explain to them that loyalty and respect among your comrades is everything. And his words to me was, loyalty and respect never made me $1.
Wow.
That right there told me, this ain't going to be going so well.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, where's DSW now? Are you involved now? I mean, I think I seen something where John said that everything's the way it should be.
But DSW's gone.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because, let me just get back to the show, and then I'll get to what happened after. A lot of the stuff that happened, we didn't plan.
Right.
We planned on getting in the ring and saying what we had to say and being done with it. Well, when we got in the ring, somebody noticed Tweedledum grabbing up the box office, and kind of sliding towards the front door.
Right.
And what's that?
I said, right.
And then that's when Johnny Delicious yelled out, "Hey boys, your payday's walking out the front door,"
Right.
And I think I was gonna talk, but Malcolm got on a roll, and I mean he really got on a roll.
Uh-huh.
And then I forgot who it was. They said, "Rob, stand down, let him go." And he basically touched base on just about everything I was going to, anyways. So I'd have just probably been repeating him,
Yeah.
And then not long after that, that's when Tweedledum started going for the front door, and I think it was MN3 that was like a cricket, man. He was like a cricket. He was through that crowd, and then all the boys were behind him. And if anybody got hurt, man, we're so sorry about that, because we didn't plan that to go down the way it did. Because it wasn't just the boys running to the door; it was other fans running to the door too.
Right.
That we didn't plan on bum rushing nobody.
Right.
But it's like I heard from one person that he was going to get the money out of his car, but it's funny that he and his brother already had the money on him.
Right.
And when he got bum rushed at the door, Tweedledee ran into the closet behind the bar and hid in the closet.
on his
So,
Facebook message, he said something about he was going to get a gun.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They said
oh
something.
yeah. In fact, Tweedledee said Tweedledum wasn't running to go get money. He was running to go get his gun. He come right
Yeah.
out and said that on the post.
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
You know, and it's like, oh, so what were you gonna do? Come in there and start shooting everybody up? Really?
Right, right. Yeah, that's a big.
Because you
no-no.
don't go back to your car and get a gun and come back unless you plan on using it.
Right.
I've seen that's just disaster waiting to freaking happen.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yeah.
So after it was all said and done, go ahead.
No, go. You're good.
No, you go.
No,
My
you
voice
go.
is getting-
No, you go. Do I go or do you go? Do you go or I go?
You go.
All right. No, I was just gonna say that's pretty stupid to even post something like that and say something like that.
It really is. And man, I can go into people are like, well, Johnny was playing both sides, you know? It's like, yep, he was. Because that was from like 2 days after I got fired. I told him, I said, don't you act any different. I want you to be in there saying, fuck Rob, screw Rob, he's an asshole. I want you to just be the way you would be with them if you hadn't talked to me. And that's
Okay.
what he did. So they're like, you don't know Johnny. You don't know Johnny. He's been talking crap about you. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Right.
I know, because his phone, when he calls somebody, it automatically records. When somebody calls him, he picks up, it automatically records. Man, the shit I've heard these two guys talk about, guys in the business, girls in the business that don't deserve to be talked to about like they do.
Right.
That really pisses me off, because that it's one thing to disrespect the boys, but to disrespect the ladies of the business
Right.
in a sexual manner, the way Tweedledum does, that's just it's unacceptable, man.
Right.
And like we said in the ring, a lot of the stuff we said really, it was like jumbled all together. I was humbled because when this was all going down, and I went to DBA and I asked him for help through this, and at first he was very leery about doing it, and I understood why, because it was childish. It was drama that should not have ever happened, but I'm taking the responsibility for that because I'm the one that got everybody to like this guy.
Right.
I mean, he had me fooled. He had a lot of people fooled, you know?
Right.
One of the workers come up to me and she said, you mean he worked me? I'm like, he worked all of us, not just you. So don't take it like it was just you. He worked all of us. It was nothing you did wrong. All you did was judge a guy by his character, and that the character he was portraying was the nicest guy in the world. And that's the guy I wished was still around. But he never was that guy, you know?
Right.
So through the strong arming and stuff, Mr. Bad Wheels did sign a piece of paper because Tweedledee has put Johnny's ring in storage since he's been sick. So that means Johnny was in the hospital for months and months and months, not working, of course. And now he's just now getting back to work like a couple days a week. And Tweedledee says, oh, you owe me $6,000 and half the storage for your ring. You can't have your ring until you pay me. Really, dude?
Yeah.
Really? Well, that's my money. I said, didn't we tell you in the beginning that you'll be putting in, but you might not be getting back? And plus, it was in a storage locker with stuff you already had stored in there. It wasn't the only thing stored in there.
Right.
You know? So if it was the only thing stored in there, yeah, I could see you being a little upset. But you know what? If you were in it for the love of this business, then you wouldn't be sweating it.
Right.
Because the
go.
guy had open heart surgery, for God's sake.
Right. Right.
You know? And now that he's come back and he's working a couple of days a week, you're telling him he can't have his ring because he owes you money. So that's where that went. That's why we were gonna try to get the ring back, but that didn't happen yet. And told Johnny, I said, just take him to court over it. Even though he's got he made Johnny sign a piece of paper, just strong armed him, says, you sign this right now up in his face, and sign over half the ring to him. And he made him sign over a third of the company over to him and a third of the company over to his merchandise selling brother.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, Johnny, I wouldn't really be sweating it too much because I think XI and Clash are the only ones that are really sanctioned, trademarked.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're legit businesses.
Right.
So in my eyes, Tweedledee and Tweedledum are 1/3 owners of nothing.
Right.
A club.
Right.
It's a club, you know?
Yeah.
And they're threatening, oh, we're going to sue you if you use DSW. You know what? I'm gonna come out here right now and say November 2nd. This is what we're gonna do. November 2nd, Grizzlies Bar presents pro wrestling
Okay.
Nice.
at 7:30. Okay, that's what we got. Grizzlies Bar is gonna present pro wrestling. We don't need a name. We want to go out there and perform for the fans, man.
Right.
You know, in our championships, it's gonna be the heavyweight champion. It's going to be the tag team champions. We don't need a name. We want to go out there. We want to perform. We don't need a name. Maybe we'll get a name later. Who knows? But
Right.
for now, we're going to present some pro wrestling,
I
and
like
then
it.
we're going to do it to
go.
the best of our ability.
I
You
like
know?
it. I like it. I definitely like it. That's awesome. So November 2nd, 7:30. You said Grizzlies.
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
I
Yeah.
think doors
That'd be
open at 7. Show starts at 7:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the other things before I forget, I got this CRS. Can't remember shit.
Mhm.
One of the things that we were trying to say in the ring, and I don't know if it got said or not,
Right.
but because of the way these guys have done us and the way they've done the fans, they're pretending to be somebody they're not. They're pretending to be these big shots when they got 5 minutes in the business. That's it.
Yeah, when you cut somebody
that's
like
okay, and then ask him to work twice, and he says no, what do you think was going to happen?
Right.
Well, it didn't happen. It didn't because
Right.
they weren't running the locker room. I
Right.
was,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
not trying to play Mr. Big Shot here, but damn it, you've got 5 minutes in the business. And the thing that humbled me the most was that when DBA came on board with me and he says, you know what, screw these guys, we're going to lay our belts down. And I'm like, well, let's go a little further. I'm going to do something that's never been done in independent pro wrestling. I'm going to get all the promoters to come to this show. And I want them to stand there and support us when we say, if any worker works with Tweedledee or Tweedledum or anybody that they're working with, you're not working for any of us. You're done. So if you feel that you're going to do that good working for the one promotion and not the other 7, knock yourself out, man. Go ahead. But you're going to get screwed just like everybody else. We're not trying to tell you who you can work with and who you can't. We're not trying to take a payday away from you. But damn it, he's fake.
Gotcha. I'm
I'm sorry,
picking up
guys.
what
I'm rambling, man.
No,
No,
you're all
man,
right.
no,
No,
no.
well, dude, you should be pissed. I mean, why not? Listen, we still got a whole episode to film here. So,
Okay.
dude, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to make sure this goes out tomorrow for sure. Tomorrow. But
Wait till
dude,
you see the post. Wait till you see the post by Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
oh boy, I can only wait. All right.
When you
dude.
do it, when are you doing DBAs? Because I can't wait to see that one.
I don't know. He hasn't really answered me back yet. I know you talked to him. I told him we could do. I asked him if he wanted to do it tonight. He didn't really respond. I will be at Proving Ground, so I'm gonna ask him if he wants to do it at Proving Ground. But I'm gonna reach out to him here in a few minutes after I get done, and just reach out to him and do the feeler thing again. Because he's the one that he said to me, he's like, "When you want the interview, let me know." And I was like,
yeah.
I'm like, I'm interviewing Rob tonight, you know, and he didn't really answer me back. So
I'm gonna say this in short. You know, when it come to me coming in promoting, if it wasn't for DBA and his promoting guidance with me, I wouldn't have been able to run the show. You know, I learned from watching him over the years, because I think I ran with XICW longer than I ran with anybody. And DBA he's a true brother, man. He really is.
He's the Godfather. I mean,
he is the Godfather of pro
let's
wrestling.
be perfectly honest. He's the Godfather, man.
When he says he runs Michigan, you believe it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I told him, I said, I think I gave you that name, but then it's like, you know what? When that name came out, everybody said they gave him that name.
Right. I didn't give him the
But
name.
I kind of remember me saying it first, but I'm not.
You're gonna have to go run in like Ric Flair and trademark that or something, dude.
Right. Well, what about the man?
Hey, that's what I mean.
Never mind. That's another show. That's another show. That's another show.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
You know what? It's all right, man. Be well.
Hope to see you guys again soon.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be around.
It's going down. This is Rasslin Rage. Do it now. This is Rasslin Rage. Scream it out loud. This is Rasslin Rage. Cody Fleming is the man who leads the brigade. It's going down. This is Rasslin Rage. Do it now. This is Rasslin Rage. Scream it out loud. This is Rasslin Rage.